here. What does this say?
The word here, Kappa Omicron Rho, it means the chief Korufe of what?
Right, the chief of what? Uh-huh.
Of Apostolon, the apostles.
The apostles. Chief
of the apostles.
Peter.
Peter.
Peter
Saint
is
Peter.
nobody else.
He is the chief of the apostles.
Okay.
For nearly 2,000 years, the shores of the Sea of Galilee have remained quiet witnesses to some of the most powerful moments in history. It was here that Jesus walked on water, taught the crowds, healed the sick, and called out to a fisherman named Peter with words that would change the course of the world. But recently, something remarkable was discovered deep beneath the soil of this ancient land. Words believed to have been spoken by Jesus to Peter, lost to history, and buried for 1,500 years. Now, those words are coming back to light. Archaeologists in Israel are uncovering evidence from the early days of Christianity that may include one of the most personal and powerful messages Jesus ever gave. And this message, long hidden under centuries of earth and stone, was waiting for just the right time to be found. Before we go any further, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel for more faith-based discoveries, biblical history, and powerful stories from the land of the Bible. Now, let's return to the shores of Galilee and the hidden words of Jesus. In a quiet region just north of the Sea of Galilee, a team of archaeologists began excavation at what was believed to be the remains of a 6th century Byzantine church. These churches were often built over sites believed to hold biblical significance, places where Jesus walked, taught, or performed miracles. As the team gently removed layers of debris, they began to uncover a beautifully preserved mosaic floor. The mosaic was full of color, carefully made by hand, and unlike anything they had expected. But what truly stunned them were the ancient Greek inscriptions hidden within the design. One inscription stood out, a direct reference to Peter, and possibly to a message from Jesus himself. The words, which scholars are still carefully translating and studying, appear to allude to a deeply personal moment between Christ and his disciple Peter. Not the well-known moment in the Gospels when Jesus says, "Feed my sheep," John chapter 21, verse 17, but another phrase, one that has never been seen in Scripture as we know it. Could this be a record of something more Jesus said to Peter, a message that was passed on orally among the early believers, and finally written down by those who remembered? The mosaic was dated to around the 500s AD, meaning it had been buried for over 1,500 years. The church itself was likely built during a time when Christianity was growing rapidly throughout the Roman Empire, and Christians were eager to preserve the words and memories of those who had walked with Christ. The location of the church was also significant. It was built near ancient Bethsaida, the hometown of Peter, Andrew, and Philip, as mentioned in John chapter 1, verse 44. This region was central to the early ministry of Jesus. It was here that he performed miracles, called his disciples, and, according to the Gospels, walked with Peter on the water, Matthew chapter 14, verse 29. Could it be that this church was built over the very place where Jesus had spoken these words to Peter? The inscription, though partially worn, contains a phrase that scholars have translated to say something like, "Peace to you, Simon, my rock, for upon your trust I will build." It echoes the famous verse from Matthew 16:18, where Jesus says, "And I tell you that you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades will not overcome it." But this new phrase, this variation of that moment, suggests a personal message of peace, trust, and calling. It's as if Jesus was reassuring Peter, comforting him, and reminding him that his faith was not in vain. Many are asking, why did this remain buried for so long? And why is it being uncovered now? Throughout history, many early churches were abandoned, destroyed, or buried during times of war, persecution, or natural disaster. It is believed that this particular church may have been hidden by an earthquake that struck the region in the 700s AD, causing portions of the structure to collapse and become lost beneath the earth. But even though it was buried, it wasn't forgotten. And perhaps, as with many things in God's timing, this message is being revealed again in a time when it's needed most. We live in a world filled with uncertainty, fear, and confusion. Many believers are asking the same questions Peter once asked. Lord, is it really you? Can I walk with you? Am I strong enough? And Jesus responds not with condemnation, but with reassurance. Peace to you, Simon, my rock. Those words, whether spoken directly or passed down through the early church, speak to the heart of every believer who struggles, who doubts, who needs to be reminded that Jesus still calls, still trusts, and still builds his church on people like Peter, people like you and me. It's easy to overlook the quiet moments in the Bible, but some of the most powerful lessons come through small conversations. When Jesus spoke to Peter, he wasn't speaking to a perfect man. Peter had failed, denied Christ, and even doubted. But Jesus saw something deeper. In John chapter 21, after Peter's denial and Christ's resurrection, Jesus gently restores him. Simon, son of John, do you love me? Yes, Lord, he said. You know that I love you. Jesus said, feed my sheep. John chapter 21, verse 17. This was more than a second chance. It was a calling. And now, 1,500 years later, we may have uncovered yet another echo of that calling. Whether the newly discovered phrase is a direct quote from Jesus or a cherished memory recorded by early believers, it carries the same message: peace, trust, a solid foundation. Discoveries like this remind us that the Bible is not just an old book, it's part of a living history. The land of Israel still holds countless treasures buried beneath the surface, waiting to be found. And every now and then, one of those treasures shines a new light on the words of Christ. If this mosaic truly preserves a forgotten message from Jesus to Peter, then it is a precious gift. It shows us that the early church valued not just the public miracles of Jesus, but the private words, the heart-to-heart moments that shaped the lives of his disciples. And it reminds us of this: Jesus knows each of us personally. He speaks peace into our lives. He sees our trust, even when it feels weak. And he calls us to follow him. Not because we're perfect, but because he is. As archaeologists continue to study the site and its inscriptions, more details are sure to emerge. But for now, this mosaic, this simple yet beautiful message, has captured the imagination of believers around the world. Imagine standing in the very spot where Peter once stood, hearing the words of Jesus not just from the pages of a book, but echoing up from the stones beneath your feet. Peace to you, Simon, my rock. What an incredible reminder that the Church of Christ has been built not just on buildings or temples, but on faith, on trust, and on the powerful words of Jesus that still speak today. Even after 1,500 years buried under the soil of Galilee, those words have risen again, and they speak to us now as clearly as ever. Thank you for joining us on this journey of faith and discovery. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe for more biblical mysteries, archaeological updates, and powerful teachings from the Holy Land. May the peace of Christ be with you always, and may his words continue to guide you, just as they did Peter. Until next time, God bless you.